first, just review a few things. Reminder that your answer, like on number 1, is not positive 4. The answer on number 3 is not -2. The answer is in the coordinate form. So you have to have the x and the y. So don't box or circle the x equals or the y equals. You need to box, circle, highlight the actual answer, which is the coordinate. So keep in mind that. So look at everything on the front of your paper right now, which should be done, and make sure you have those answers on there. Okay? Now, one thing that all these had in common yesterday is that they gave you what the y was. So really, you only had to do half the problem. You had to find out what x is, but y was basically free. Okay. So on the back, you're going to see a slight change. So starting on number 11. Okay. You notice that y does not equal 8. So whereas before we could say, right away we could say what the y equaled. On here it is not. Having some issues. A second. There it goes. Okay. So yeah, y does not equal 8. We can't just go to our answer and put in 8 anymore. Y is now going to equal 8 times whatever we get for x. So you're going to do the same thing you did on the front, get x, but then you actually have to multiply it by 8 to find out what y is. So otherwise, same exact steps. So it's called the substitution method because we're substituting 8x in for y. And substitute means one goes in, one goes out, like a game or something like that. One player goes in while the other player goes out. So the y is coming out, right? And the 8x is going in. So we'll end up with everything the same except for that one little part. I'll put in red. I'll always use parentheses to plug it in. It'll keep things a little more organized. And then you solve, and nothing here is new as far as solving, except that before we added and subtracted a number here because it was just a number, but now we have 2 variables. So instead, we're actually going to combine these, keep them on the same side. So -1x minus 16x is -17x. And then you can divide both sides by this. So one step, a little different in the middle, right here. Before we were adding and subtracting because it was just a number. But now that we have 2 variables, we don't want to add and subtract right away. We combine them first. Okay. So slightly different. So we know x is -1, and we got part of our answer. Now, what does y equal? So take either equation, but usually the smaller one is easier. You're going to take that original equation, and you're going to take your answer that you got for x, right? It's right here, and you're going to plug it in for x. So it's actually another substitution. We have to plug in x equals -1. So we know y is going to be 8 times -1, which is -8. So that is our final answer. So this part over here is new to you. Everything else here is pretty much the same, except for right here we need to, instead of adding subtracting 16x, we just combine it with the other variable. Okay. So you got to keep in mind that you're going to have problems like both of these. Some that are going to be like a number, like on the front side, where remind you, see we got -8 and then we added 8 to both sides. That's how we solve that one. And there's going to be some that have variables where we get -16, but we're not adding 16x to both sides. We're combining it with the other variable first. Then we divide. So slightly different. Okay. So let's do a few more. if you got it already, just feel free to go ahead and work quietly, but I'll just do a few more. 3x. Substitute in for y. Okay, and we get 3x, which we're plugging in here. And negative 2x plus 12x, or 12x minus 2x, same thing. 10 times what equals negative 10? 10 times what number is negative 10? And you can prove it by dividing by 10 on both sides. Negative 1. So first part of the answer is done. Negative 1. So let's take the smaller equation here. Just rewrite it. And then plug in your answer, substitute it in. In both these cases, I think they're a negative 1, but they will be different numbers. It's coincidence on here. 3 times negative 1 is negative. And keep in mind that you already know how to solve all of these by graphing. So all we are doing for this whole week and next week as well is we're solving a problem you already know about. It's just that last week before spring break, you were graphing them and you're finding out, okay, the answer is right here, and you wrote down the coordinate. It's the same exact thing if you did it right now. If we graph them, that's where they'd intersect. So we're doing this without the graph though. It's different. All right. Do you need more, or do you think we're good? A few more? Okay, let's do 14. Down. You notice the order in which they're listed doesn't matter. So like above here, the y equals is on top. Here, the y equals is on the bottom. It doesn't change anything. So let's take this, plug it in for y. Took x and plugged it in for y. Basically just switching the variable. So 5x minus 2x is 3x. Ah, it came out to negative 1 again. This is odd. That's okay. So we get negative 1, and we can plug it back in, y equals x. There we go. Plug it in there. We don't have to multiply or anything this time. Y equals negative 1 also. So our answer is negative 1 for x, and for y, it's also negative 1. Not too bad, right? We just rounded out by doing 13 as well. So y is negative 3x. Replace this y with negative 3x. Negative 3x. Notice how we have a negative from the equation, but then also a negative from the negative 3 you're plugging in. That's why we see 2 of them. So those two negatives will make a positive. Six x plus 3x is 9x. 9 times what equals 18? And you get, there you go. Finally got an x that wasn't negative 1. take the original y equals. So y is going to be -3 times whatever x is. And we found out x is equal to 2. So y is going to equal -3 times 2. There we go. And for all of these, you can do a mental check and know if it's right or wrong. You don't have to hope and pray. Just plug in 2 for x and -6 for y, and you'll see it works. 2 times 6. 6 times 2 would be 12. And then y would be 6, and 12 plus 6 would be 18, so you know this is correct. You can always do a check really fast. Okay, you have the rest of the period to finish the back and the front if it's not already done, and put it in the period 5 bin when you're done. And otherwise, you can work on Khan Academy or code.org if you're already finished. I see some of you are.